everybody. So if you want to have a family stay for one night and they're good people, you're not going to have a problem. You're going to have a bad family stay for your 2-night minimum and they're a-holes, then you're going to have problems. I don't see how a minimum stay is going to affect anything other than putting more liability and burden on the
We
people
had,
who own
we
the
had
houses.
someone from the public at the planning board meeting that came on Zoom and was saying, I think it was through Zoom, that when they first started doing their house as a short-term rental, they tried to make it a 7-day stay minimum. They got nothing, and they changed it to 5 and they still got nothing. They changed it to 2 and they're solidly booked July and August. So you have to look at that as well.
Yeah.
How do you folks feel about that?
We have about 80 to 90% that
2 days?
Well, let them finish, all right? Let them finish. Don't just, what were you saying?
I would say, like, especially now, people are starting to feel the squeeze of things getting more expensive, so for something that book a 7-night minimum stay somewhere is
Scary.
yeah, big money, so now
Yeah.
they're not coming to your town, they're staying home.
Right.
John?
Go ahead, John.
Just go back to the Bolton does have on their application, 3-year, $300.
Okay.
300 a year or 300 total? What is it?
For 3 years.
It's
300 bucks a year.
300 for 3
Yeah.
years. Yes.
Sir, you were saying?
Well, if you want the homeowners there on weekends, which everybody would like, you know what I mean, then they can't be a 5-day rental. You know what I mean? If you're gonna be up here on weekends and you wanna let somebody rent it during the week when you're not here.
Is that something that you normally do
He doesn't.
I don't rent
at this present
them. 4
time?
or 5 people on my street. do, yeah.
Okay, is that what they do?
Yeah.
Okay.
A little more than that. They're here on weekends and renting it during the week and later too. Really, we usually don't even know the people. that is.
Another thing about the two night instead of the single night is I think for the community, people live next to them and the homeowner who is Airbnb it prevents the come in and set it off that night. Have a good time. I don't care. We're leaving in the morning. We don't be able to come back here. Who cares? We're never coming back. There's people like that are going to party one night. But on the minimum of 2 night, they got to hang around for another night. So there's time for people to get the complaint to the homeowner who's doing it to come up and address it, who is a half hour away. So I think it works out for the people who are running the Airbnb too. They're gonna the one night they're gonna go to the hotels in Lake George. You know, they're gonna go do that there and then get in trouble.
Okay,
That's just my opinion on it.
Yeah.
Not allowing one night actually gets your homeowners break too.
go on.
Yeah, true. You're right.
Moving on down, at some point, somebody brought up pool safety, but I don't think we were doing.
I talked to Tom McKinney about that today. He said if there is a pool present, they make sure that there is a pool alarm there and they check
So it's part of the county inspection.
part of the county inspection.
Someplace, somebody mentioned keep a guest registry. I assume typically you would do that, right?
You have to have one anyway
Yeah.
in your booking system.
The fireworks thing, we already talked about. The parking thing, I guess we're coming back to that. Tim, would you re-express what you said, you know?
Oh, about the
B&B next to a
parking.
regular residence. one
Yeah,
park-
so it's not a business, it's a residence. If it's a residence, it's not a business. So if the neighbors who live there year round or have a party or whatever, or they have 4 or 5 cars are parked around out front on the road. As far as the people Airbnb, where's that's, I don't know, is there a disparaging of fairness there? What's good for you is not good for me. Why can't I have
I
that
think what
those
they
6
were
cars
trying to
out there?
do was to make sure that there was adequate parking for the
Okay.
number of people that they were letting
Okay.
rent there.
That's the intent of it?
That was the
Okay.
intent of it.
Was that part of the county inspection?
No, they don't address parking. That would,
There's nobody from the county gonna go out and see if anybody's.
You know, there's another thing that we
No,
ought
I
to,
mean, in terms of the county declaring that property can handle X number of guests, do they take parking into account when the county does the inspection to declare that?
I don't believe they look at that.
No, because you
I
could
think
put
that might
8
be,
people in a big SUV or 8 cars if they all come single.
you know, there's another thing that we ought to look at also is a situation where they have inadequate fireplaces and things of this sort. A lot of people come out of the outlying areas. We're in the Adirondacks. We want to have a fire and the fires are up and out of control. It's licking the trees up there because they've never had one.
It happens a lot.
It happens a lot. And I feel that if this is going to be able to be used at an adequate fireplace or, you know, to take care of the situation.
You mean like a fire pit or in an indoor fireplace, are you talking?
Both. Okay, which is also probably part of the county inspection, if there's a fireplace in there, if they can adequately, you know, if it's good, for one thing.
Mhm.
But I'm also thinking about outside fires.
Yeah.
You know, we'll sit outside and toast some marshmallows or whatever you want to do and enjoy the Adirondacks.
What do you
Nope.
consider a safe fireplace or pit?
Pardon?
DEC. If it's a fire pit, DEC rules,
Okay, well, you're kind of like a,
you know?
having a mason come in and build, you know, a 3-foot tall wall. Assembly.
I'm just bringing this up at this, yeah, I'm just bringing this up, something, you know, not just a couple laid up stones around in a circle.
It'll get,
Okay.
yeah, well, we have the April band every year, April to May. We always have that going on too. So there, I think that would come down to like,
know,
keeping them informed.
Day 14.
A lot of fires are started, you know. The fire's been out for 2 or 3 days. You have no renters coming in. You're getting ready. They're moving out on Sunday. You know, you got renters coming back in on Friday. So you go down on Thursday, make sure everything's good, clean. And the underground fire they've been burning for 2 days is starting to cause a problem. Okay, and the general people that own their homes and stay there, okay, keep an eye on this stuff. So maybe a concrete base, some stones, you know, laid up in mortar or something like that. You go to a campground, they get to keep an adequate size, they use rims from 18-wheelers.
Trucks.
Okay, trucks. You know, you got a pit about that big. They supply a fancy little grill top, cook hamburgers on it if you wanted to. But I'm thinking of something in that. Okay,
Maybe we issue it as like a max fire pit size.
possibly.
I don't, it's,
Let me read to you Lake George's parking. Just, I'm not advocating it or not, or advocating it. There shall be no maximum, I'm sorry, went to the wrong page. All owners of short-term rentals shall require at a minimum 2 parking spaces for the renters of the property. For every 4 allowable renters for a short-term rental, there shall be a minimum of 1 additional parking space. In no case shall the rental property allow more than 10 cars. That's what they did. I don't know if they consider they're successful or not. Do you?
Like doors.
Yeah.
Didn't they just ban them?
I don't know, like, I'll tell them.
Didn't I read somewhere that Lake George just stopped all their short-term rentals because they were having so many problems with it? or
Put a,
something?
uh,
I saw a thing in
They
the,
put a moratorium on it.
Yeah.
Right now.
Oh, anymore.
I saw a thing in the paper that Lake George was stopping
No, that's
issuing the
just put a
permits,
moratorium given out, right?
right, until they finish the updating of the master plan.
I read because they were having issues.
there were issues, noise, and there
I
were
didn't hear
issues.
nothing
There
about
were
a master
issues.
plan. It was because there were so many complaints.
You know, we're
I don't think we have that around here.
we're
Other than a
we're trying to
couple.
do basically 2 things. Am I correct? Protect the people that live on each side, okay, and their property. You've had people come to us and say, short-term renters are walking all over my property. We have property down on the water. Here they are walking all the way around in front of my docks and everything else. And at the same time, to come up with a good standard thing for the people that are renting.
Okay, did we Next thing I had on this list was no RVs, campers, storage buildings used as short-term rentals.
I agree.
And like I said, I want to add in there tents because there's places now that you can call up, rent a tent. They set it up for you. If you want beds in them, a complete kitchen and everything else.
How do you guys feel about that idea?
Where's that?
I would agree with that.
Is it a campground? So why not legal?
Hey, Jim,
Why
did
should
you,
that be illegal if they're
did you
doing it?
visit the fire prevention in Warren County? We talk about that again? All the way up to the top, have Warren County Fire Prevention, and we said property maintenance inspection. My concerns about, we get back to it, I know we don't have to have, according to county code, fire extinguishers in the building. But as far as local, I think that's crazy.
I do too.
That's insane. As a former firefighter at Luzerne Hadley, sometimes Thanksgiving, we're not around. And every second counts. Every second counts. I've been in interior, every set quicker, it gets, the cold stuff gets put on the hot stuff, the sooner it's out, the fire prevention. Now, I would like to see that required and extinguishers, on top of that, extinguishers inspected annually by a reputable, like New York State, New York Fire and
Fire
Signal.
and signal.
They come in, they check them, they make sure they're charged, they make sure that everything, all the powder inside is free, because it does cake up on you. There's nothing worse than going, nothing gas comes out. Like we've heard, like Paul said, people come up here, they want the big fire. Or they're gonna come up here, they're gonna cook, they're unfamiliar with the cooking surface, unfamiliar with the pans, or just they think the fan works, maybe it broke, I don't know. As a homeowner who's there every day would know, you gotta have something there to grab that's gonna work every time. Every time.
That's
There are
no
different
different than having an
grades of-
outside garden hose that works
Yeah.
too.
There are different grades of fire
Yeah, there's K,
extinguishers, though,
there's chemical, and
Yeah.
there's water.
but
Grease.
typically in a
Grease.
house,
ABC.
you
That's
wouldn't
generally
necessarily have an extinguisher that needs to be inspected yearly by a company such, by a reputable company. You would typically more have like those kitty
The household
brand
use.
fire
Yeah,
extinguishers.
those,
certain
for
level, you
example,
throw
I
it
used to
in.
do fire and safety at the facility I worked at. Those have to be every year going around. You have to go around with a rubber mallet, turn them upside down and beat them until the powder breaks up. They don't work.
Yeah.
Water cans, gotta make sure they
So
have pressure in them.
you
but
want every
want
house
some
to
oversight,
have
yeah.
some kind of a
Yeah, I
commercial
think it's a-
grade.
I think it's good because like I said, you get there, if there's something the homeowner or the guest could have done or take care of it before the fire department rolls up with a big red truck, then we're better off as a community. And the owner of the Airbnb.
And the guy next door.
I see an enforcement issue with that, a yearly inspection. Are you gonna have
Okay.
my office going in these places yearly checking
No,
them?
this is a
No, it's done by
suggestion, I don't know.
professionals.
Like New
Not
York
that you're
Fire
not
and Signal.
Professional, but professional fire extinguishers.
Yeah, but how are you going to know? You're not going to know if it's been inspected or not.
It's simple.
Well, you go in there, they hang a tag on them. There's
I
an
know,
orange
I
tag.
know, but who's going to see that unless someone is,
What if we had
Who's
it,
physically
gonna know if
checking
they have
on it.
more people there?
what if we had
That's
it, what if we had it mailed back,
Nobody.
a copy? to
From
your
New York
office?
Fire and Signal, maybe.
Because you're keeping,
well, that's up to you to decide. I just see it as being a bit of a nightmare, but whatever you decide.
Requirement for the permit process?
pardon?
Can't you just make it a requirement?
Yeah, but if you,
But if
then
the
you'd have to
permit
do your
process
permit
is 3
annually.
years, and they're talking about an annual inspection, it doesn't,
We're trying to stretch it out for
But
everybody.
as a homeowner, wouldn't you think they would want to save their house from burning down?
I would think so.
You would think so. I mean, common sense has to prevail somewhere. We're gonna
How do
make a
you- yeah,
list of
the-
rules this long.
Here comes a turkey fryer. And for the big party they're gonna have at the Airbnb. Oh my God, disaster.
The fire department could check, could you bring your certified?
Not a smoke detector, but that's like extinguisher. That
No, we don't
the
do
Hadley
that.
Luzerne Fire Department, if you know one of them, they're more than happy to answer questions like that or
Thank
point
you,
you in the
sir.
right direction.
We're not certifying
Not
it.
certified. That's
I have
again,
Commercial buildings and I have to have my fire extinguishers checked every year. The
New York,
fire
yeah.
department comes down, they
Where is this?
set up a time,
Where is this?
and runs for
They're paid.
it. Yeah,
They're a paid
yeah.
department. Yeah, you got,
So that's where I'm like, so that's something I'm mandated to.
Yep.
In this circumstance, would there be an easier way for me to get that up to, like she said, we're sending the tag. We have no problem complying, we're getting a new one every year.
the New York Fire and Signal or a company like that gives a receipt to the homeowner. Here you go, we inspected. And I would say probably possibly 30 days. I mean, that's a suggestion. I don't know. I'm just,
You
Maybe
can
look
bring
at-
them right over there too. They don't
Yeah.
have to come to your house.
yeah.
You can take them right to their facility.
Yeah, right.
Take them right to their facility.
Yeah, they'll do it right there. You can drive over, they're right in Glens Falls, New York Fire and Signal. They do like the facility I did. They do a lot and they're like, bang, bang, here you go. They'll recharge them. If one's, they can recharge ones that are rechargeable. You can different grades of fire extinguishers for your premises that you're gonna rent, but I think that's good for everybody.
Maybe that once a year.
Yeah.
It's something you don't need to bring an inspector into the building, that's hard. You know what
Yeah,
I mean?
I understand.
Grab
Yep.
that smoke detector, run down there, do 4 or 5 in one day. You know what I mean?
The smoke detector for residential,
Extinguisher, I'm sorry.
yes,
Yes.
unless they're hardwired in or battery operated, that's a, you know,
So either a receipt for a new one or a certification yearly.
But at the same time, your fire wired in hardwired.
yes,
They're only good for 10 years.
yes, that's true.
It says right on them.
The next thing that I had written down that was not in agreement by all three people that reviewed this thing was the appeal process. If somebody's found in violation, I think it was the planning board or the zoning board recommended that the zoning board of appeals be the court, if you will, to review that appeal.
Well, it's written into the ordinance that
The
the
town
zoning
board.
board of appeals hears the appeals of any of the zoning ordinances, correct? So it would be
Okay.
sensible that it would be them.
Warrensburg has the town board doing it. But I would tend to agree. I think the zoning board of appeals makes the most sense.
Yeah,
That's
on my wheelhouse.
the next area that's up for discussion is the penalty for no permit and the penalty for the 3-strike system, assuming the 3-strike system is the system we would want to adopt. For example, Warrensburg strike 1 is $200, not more than $200. Strike 2 is not more than 500 and strike 3 is $950. The zoning board made the point that a $200 fine is not enough to get their attention.
There's no verbiage for revocation of their permit
Oh, yeah, yes.
after what, strike 4?
In Warrensburg case, it's strike 3. I want to say something. I talked to the CEO in Warrensburg at length about this, and theirs has been in place for about 3 years now, and he's had one that went to strike 2. One.
How many do they have registered up there?
I didn't ask him. It's quite a few. So I don't know. How much should the fine be?
I don't think there should be a fine for strike 1 because everybody can make a mistake. It's education, not enforcement, that's going to make it work, in my opinion, on anything.
What was, I heard the 950 and 500. What was the
200, 500, and 950.
And revocation.
And revocation. The CEO has the authority to pull a permit immediately under certain situations, and those are health situations or whatever.
Right.
And it's gone for a year too, if it gets.
Maybe only,
Again, there's a lot more in these than what I'm reading. I'm just reading the ones that the zoning board, the planning board commented on.
I guess it also comes back to what happens to people that aren't even registering.
Yeah,
And we found out after the fact. Last year, looking on the website, there was over 100 Airbnbs listed in this town alone.
yeah.
Those are the ones who are using the sites.
Yeah,
A lot of people don't even use it. They get their regular clientele. Once
And
they
that's what I'm
establish a
saying.
pattern, you don't even need Airbnb. Why would
That's
you
what
want
I'm
to pay
saying.
them 20% when you can just do it me to you, you know, you don't even know.
and that's what I'm
Right.
saying.
As the former chairman of the zoning board of appeals, one of the things we always hated was when somebody built something, didn't get a permit, and then something happened, neighbor got upset or one thing or another and turned them in, and then it turns out it's too close to the property line or this or that. That, you know, then you have a violation and you're in a bad situation, you know, so.
And the more cumbersome we make that, the more you're gonna see that. If it's a nice streamlined process that isn't cumbersome, overbearing, intrusive, that people are gonna be happy to register, because I think if the more you make it 18 pages of what you can and can't do, people are gonna say, I'm just gonna do it until I get caught and then pay the price afterwards, I think.
Okay. That is the end of the conflicts that I had noted between the three towns.
Anybody else?
Yeah, she might want it for the regular meeting.
All right, the only other question, hold on a second, I'll put my 2 cents in. Is I hope you have commercial insurance on your Airbnb. You do, you're not, can't have homeowners, because if something happens and you get sued, your homeowners will not pay out. That, okay, that's good. I saw a hand. Yes, sir.
You have my letter there.
Mhm.
Yes.
Information about that, and hopefully something, we'll get a reply on that, and they need counsel for that, because we're on Davern Drive. It just says no motel. It says no motel, as the county classifies it. And this has been the zoning. This has been the zoning. There's no motel here on Davern Drive.
This is where we've got to get that clarification in regards to Hamlet residential. And that's the key point right there.
Exactly.
Well, I would say, correct me if I'm wrong, if anybody knows, most Airbnbs are in residential areas anyway that aren't zoned for it. I mean, it's just single out
Because-
your Davern Drive. I'm not saying you're wrong.
No, like that doesn't, it's right here.
No, I know, and
Doesn't belong.
it's right everywhere. I have one right next to my house. No, I understand. I got it. But I'm saying I have one right next to my house too, and mine's totally residential. So I mean, where do you say it's okay for you, but not for them, or not okay?
Not
It's just,
saying that.
I'm not, I'm not talking to you. I'm just talking broadly.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Where does it start and where does it end? And to be fair for everybody, right?
So Airbnb won't even do business with like something defined as a hotel. It's got to be a unique setting.
I mean, down here we have, now it's like a revolving door, 2 days. We're on a dead end street. And this was written up to prevent that. You know, have all strange people. There's gridlock on the street, to tell you the truth. Each place down there is 2-3 cars every day.
How many are down there? How many do you have down? How many do you think you have down there?
Three that we just saw on the inside.
Three, did you say, I can't hear you.
Three.
Three. And how many houses is there total?
Airbnb and Verbo, so we haven't looked at any of the sites.
How many houses total on Davern Drive? 8 or 10, probably?
Oh,
No,
probably-
there's more than.
There might be 15.
This is what, Jim?
Yeah.
Houses? Oh,
Yeah.
There's a lot more than that.
15.
Think so?
Yeah, because
So you're
down where I
talking
used
3
to
out of
live, it's
15.
not
What's
part
that?
of
That's-
Davern Drive.
The only one
20%.
referring to the short-term rentals as hotel motels is part of Warren County's description. I think it's under their local law. Is that what you told me?
In the occupancy tax law.
Yeah, in the occupancy tax law. Because I think they also get occupancy tax from hotel motels. That's why I brought up in the beginning that I talked to Melissa, the assessor, Melissa Janier, the assessor, that for the most part, these short-term rentals are single-family homes. They're not multiple family homes. They're, for the most part, I mean, there may be some apartments out there that are being run as short-term rentals, but for the most part, they're single-family homes that are being rented out as short-term rentals. And And even the state building code looks at a single family home as a single family home. Even if you do long-term rentals in a single family home, it's not considered a business. It's considered a single family home for inspection purposes and regulation purposes, as far as safety and that kind of thing. They're looked at as a single family home. Mr. Burdanko has the use table out of our zoning ordinance, which I gave him because we discussed this in my office. And on there in Hamlet residential, he's correct. Hotel motels is blacked out. It's not allowed in a residential zone. But most of these short-term rentals are looked at as single-family homes, not as a hotel motel. And yes, the county is receiving occupancy tax from them, and many of them should be registered as LLCs, which are a type of a business, but they're really considered a single family home, which is what that neighborhood is made up of.
So that's how they can get away with the zoning or whatever.
Correct.
I would like to see if everybody's in agreement that we ask our town attorney to review Mr. and Mrs. Burdanko's.
Thank you. I'm not against short-term rental.
Yeah,
I welcome them too. But not in this area. Residents.
you guys in agreement?
Yes.
Yeah, the things have got to be looked over, the questions got to be answered, the legal questions,
Yeah.
yeah. Before we continue.
I mean, that's a pretty serious issue because if you can't have these things in certain zones, you're talking about a zoning issue now. You're not just talking about regulating.
Right.
Amen, Jim. I'm not looking for an answer right now.
Yeah,
Maybe the panel and the council get together and come up with a solution.
The zoning hasn't changed. The area is still residential. Their area is still residential. It has not changed. The fact that they're renting in a residential is permitted, and it doesn't make it a hotel because they're renting. It's very simple. It's okay. It's being happening all over the country. The whole point of it is to be a residential area, not to change your zoning to hotels. There'll be extremely restricted amount of Airbnbs that.
The town. You look at the current zoning.
I understand what you're saying. You're trying to define an Airbnb as a hotel. It's
The
not.
county right now.
They're trying to tax-
I like to hear,
Yeah, let her
like to
talk.
hear what she said.
You had your say. Let her
Just let her
rebut.
talk.
Yeah, but Karen just kind of cleared that up as to why. Probably when those ordinances were written, that they didn't even have Airbnb. So is that fair to say?
I don't know if that's true or not, but I'm saying that they include the hotel motels in that local law because they get occupancy tax from them.
We have a request from the public soon that the public speak at the podium, because they can't hear these comments from the podium.
Okay, thank you. Is there anybody out in the audience that'd like to say something? Any hands up?
Repeat your comments if you'd like to.
You'd have to come to this mic right here.
it has to be pretty close to you. You can pull it.
There you go.
Hi, my
That's
name
it.
is Barbara Veneris. I live on Davern Drive part of the year. And I was commenting to the gentleman behind me that the law that the county passed in 2018, clarifying the request of occupancy tax by short-term rentals, also clarified the definition of a short-term rental under a hotel and motel. Thank you.
Good, thank you. All right, we're well over our time. We're going to work, and like I said, this is going to be months in the operation. We'll keep
Hello?
everybody informed.
Hello,
Had his hand up for a while.
Who is it?
Al Miller. I'm in Tomahawk Drive, Lake Luzerne.
I had a couple comments. One is that we cannot hear your group's responses. It's very difficult on Zoom to hear anything you're saying other than what on a mic. So it's very difficult to have an opinion.
All right, we'll have the people move up closer, but go ahead.
Okay, but everything that you said tonight, we missed. And I think that's true for anybody on Zoom. But to continue, on fire safety and inspections and stuff, I have multiple units of apartment buildings, and I also deal with Airbnb in the Caribbean. And I like to say that, you know, what you're suggesting about not having inspections or not requiring fire extinguishers is not typical of anybody else that I'm used to dealing with. And multiple families in which apartment buildings I own, that's a requirement. And typically we have inspections, fire extinguishers and smoke detection, in which you routinely have people go through once a year, and then it's submitted by email to the fire marshal, and basically that's it. My commercial insurance requires that. Overseas and stuff, it's more with the British government, it's more mandated. You have to have this and you have to submit it. And you have to submit it and you have to pay for it. And it's just a yearly requirement, which seems, I know it's basic, but it's so fundamental to have that for life safety issues on short-term renters or anybody renting. Basically, that's my comments at this time. But I appreciate your updates and I appreciate looking into all these matters. And I do appreciate people that are renting that are conscious of these concerns and they do address it. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
I would like to ask this couple, I don't know your name, I apologize, but does your commercial insurance policy for Airbnb address the fire safety at all?
Yes, yes.
It's not an Airbnb.
It was the air
No, I was talking to the
in the
folks.
US or in the New York, it's commercial building, so it's not Airbnb. Overseas in the Caribbean, it's an Airbnb, and the government requires all that.
Thank you. To these folks.
And it's very simple. They inquire inspection yearly, and you have to provide that documentation. And it's very difficult.
Okay.
Okay, thanks, Mr. Miller.
Thank you. Guys, I didn't hear your answer. Does your commercial Airbnb or short-term rental policy demand that you do any kind of fire safety or anything?
Because it's an Airbnb.
Yes.
What was the-
Overseas, yes.
I was talking to the people here, sir. I'm sorry.
Yeah, we're talking to people inside the audience here.
So no, it doesn't.
All right.
I'm just curious. Do you have fire extinguishers there?
Of course.
The fool would, I'll tell you that.
To your
I've
own
been in
safety.
rentals that says, get the hell out. Don't worry about it. Not yours. That's the problem.
All right. You ready to close
I got
this?
nothing else.
Paul,
Make a
anything
motion.
else?
Make
All right,
a
we'll
motion.
close this session of this workshop. We'll be having more and it'll be on our website. So just keep an eye out for it.
Hammer through this.
Make a motion to close.
Thank you, ladies and
Second motion.
gentlemen.
Got a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.